have to moonwalk, I will moonwalk.
Inappropriate, dog.
He was lucky his wife was like, not this time.
Right? She had to check that. Check that.
I'm glad they caught that. But back, do we want to...
I mean, well, that's Bill Clinton's presidency, basically. Yeah. Like, it was like mired in controversy.
If we're going to start there, like, yeah, in a nutshell...
It was mired in controversy. Yeah. Like, and like you said, the good things he did were done in a shady way. Like, I always... And people idealize Bill Clinton. And I think they idealize...
Cool.
Well, yes, he was cool. He smoked weed.
He played his...
But he didn't inhale.
He played his saxophone. He went on all the talk shows.
He got blowjobs in the Oval Office.
He was like, the man's president. He was a good-looking guy.
Yeah, and at the time... Again, it wasn't like a super feminist time.
No.
So...
Trump being president now is actually pretty incredible. He was able to get there.
Right? With all the grab him by the pussy.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty incredible.
Well, and
all these things he said, the Mexicans being rapists.
And everything we're saying about the Clintons contributed.
Yeah. Because all of that ramped up society's openness to this awful rhetoric during campaigns.
Yeah, well, there was
campaign rhetoric.
There was so much mud for him to sling.
Yeah,
and he is not shy.
He is the furthest from being shy.
If you had to vet your candidates, why would you pick Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, I didn't understand why against him of all people, someone you knew was going to go after every low blow possible.
Right? Why wouldn't you run Sanders? This is not the point. This is a whole nother episode. Why wouldn't you run Sanders? But
Sanders probably had a better chance of winning.
That's what I'm saying.
The Democratic elite were afraid of him, so they couldn't. They would rather. It's terrible to say it, but I believe they would rather risk a Trump and gamble having a woman president, making history. Those things were the pros, but they risked getting Trump and not running Bernie because they were afraid of his democratic socialism.
I dig that. I think that's absolutely
a good way to stop that for today, for part one.
All right, so let's get into the kill list. We already mentioned Vince Foster. I'm just gonna read them off. I'm gonna read them off real quick.
Well, yeah, just give us the introduction and everything.
I'm gonna get into a few of them. No, I'm going to read off the kill list.
Oh, okay, just straight up?
Yeah, and then I'm going to get into a few specific ones. And, wow. Just before I do, wow, dude. Okay, so this list is 47 people dead. But the list is ever growing. Like, there's people not on here I'm going to talk about. There's people who are probably added yesterday. Some are way more crazy than others. Okay, so there's James McDougal, Mary Mahoney, Vince Foster, Ron Brown, C. Victor Reiser II, Paul Tully, Ed Willie, Jerry Parks, James Bunch, James Wilson, Kathy Ferguson, Bill Shelton, Gandhi Bahi, Florence Martin, Suzanne Coleman, Paula Grober, Danny Casolaro, Paul Witcher, John Parnell Walker, Barbara Wise, Charles Meisner, Dr. Stanley Hurd, Barry Seal, Johnny Lawhorn, Stanley Huggins, Herschel Friday, Kevin Don Henry, Keith Coney, Keith McCaskill,
it's alphabetical.
Gregory Collins, Jeff Rhodes, James Milan, Jordan Kettleson, Richard Winters, and John Ash. And then their following bodyguards are now also dead. Major William S. Barkley Jr., Captain Scott J. Reynolds, Sergeant Brian Hanley, Sergeant Tim Sable, Major General William Robertson, Colonel William Densberger, Colonel Robert Kelly, Special Agent Gary Rhodes, Agent Steve Willis, Agent Robert Williams, Agent Conway LeBlanc, and Agent Todd McKeehan. And that is not the end of the military list. This is just the list I have.
And just to clarify,
what we talked about before, are a majority of these people listed as suicides as well?
There are a lot. The suicide is the most often. Suicide or death by execution style shooting seem to be the two. So here we go. We're gonna get into some specific ones. The first two we'll get into. Mary Mahoney and Kathy Ferguson were both. Mary Mahoney was executed in what sounds like a mob-style execution, but it was deemed a botched robbery. She was going to testify in the Paula Jones lawsuit. Kathy Ferguson, an apparent suicide.
The suicide ones are the fascinating
But
ones.
she shot herself with her offhand, according to the report, which is weird. Also was going to testify in the Paula Jones lawsuit. John F. Kennedy Jr. crashed his airplane so Hillary could take the senator's seat.
That one I didn't know
Not
about
the
at
only
all.
plane crash either.
Well, that family. Kennedy family
No, not
alone.
the only plane crash on the list.
Oh, on the list. Jeez. I thought you were talking about just the Kennedys.
No!
Yeah.
So Kennedy and his family, put them on the list. There was 3 other people with them. I forget their names. Linda Thompson.
His girlfriend or fiance.
The woman who began this list is dead.
I think with Kennedy was his fiance was on the plane.
Yeah, and 2 other women.
Okay. Yeah, well, it was his wife. Okay.
Thanks, Mom. Our mother's with us. Linda Thompson, the woman who began this list, and other scandals. She was listing a lot of things, but she began the kill list.
Okay.
She died of an apparent OD, possible suicide. Vince Foster, definitely the most high profile.
One, yeah.
He was the one who they found the torn up letter. He was going to resign. He knew everything about the real estate deals. He'd covered up all kinds of crap for their campaign. And he was going to leave, and he knew too much. And they said it was a suicide, though investigator Hugh Sprunt claims to have found a lot of evidence to the contrary. They weren't specific about what the evidence was.
Total-wise, how many suicides do we know how many suicides are listed out of the total?
There's more than 10. I know that. I'd have to go back through it. It's more than a quarter of them.
Okay.
So, Ron Brown, he was being investigated by everybody at the time of his death. But he knew specifically of illegal campaign contributions to Bill Clinton's, I believe, second presidential campaign. He also a plane crash, though an Army tech was there during one of the private autopsies. They blocked a public autopsy at the White House.
Interesting.
So, and then 34 other people died on this plane crash, but an Army tech commented that Ron Brown looked as though he had also been shot in the head. And then the only survivor of the plane crash died of a broken neck on the way to the hospital when apparently the ambulance crashed.
Oh, whoa.
That's weird, because
So
she was the sole survivor of this plane crash.
She was the sole survivor of the plane crash.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then Nico Jessup, who was in charge of keeping the plane on course and was going to be, grilled because the plane was off course, dead by an apparent... What do you think?
Suicide?
Yep.
Oh, that's my favorite one.
The suicides
3 days
later.
Are just the most bizarre ones that have that many suicides.
Dude. So many suicides.
Either the Clintons upset people so much that they want to kill themselves.
Well, and here's Gary Webb, journalist. He was going to expose them somehow. I don't know. He shot himself in the head with a shotgun twice. And I'm not sure how you do that.
Even if we remove everyone...
How do you do that? How do you shoot yourself in the head twice with a shotgun?
Like the guy who jumped off the building, slit his throat,
Right,
broke his
yeah.
neck, shot himself. even if we removed all the people who didn't die by suicide, only the suicide people, it's still a large list.
Oh yeah, it's still big.
And I would think something's wrong with me if that many people around me had killed themselves.
There are people that say that Anthony Bourdain's suicide was their fault because he's come out against them so many times over so many sexual scandals. So he's on the list now. Admiral Jeremy Borda shot himself twice in the chest with 2 different guns. Apparent suicide. It's weird, right?
Really
Why
weird.
would you shoot yourself with 2 different guns?
Well, yeah, 2 different,
Unless you did it all at once.
Shooting yourself twice, I can
If you did
maybe
it at once,
understand.
right? Because in the chest twice makes sense, but would you do it with both hands at once with 2 different guns?
I feel like that would be asking to screw it up.
And then the last guy I got is Victor Thorne, who is a former journalist and author. He'd written 4 books exposing the Clintons, and he was shot to death while hiking for a no-ass reason. and then I thought a funny one that's on there that I don't believe
Did they claim like a
is
hunting
Paul Walker.
accident or anything?
Paul
like
Walker's on there.
that? Really? Why would Paul Walker? What's the reasoning for Paul Walker?
I don't know. I just thought it was funny, so
okay.
I threw it in there. But there's so many. They don't say why he was shot.
Well, yeah, that's why the
they just
suicide
say
ones.
he was murdered.
The suicide ones to me
But
are
they
the
don't
most
know why.
fascinating.
It's always like it's either a botched robbery or for seemingly just no reason.
Just a murder.
Like must have mouthed off to the wrong guy on the mountain, I guess. Okay, so that's the full kill list. I think there's like I said, there's names being added still.
Yeah, so it's an ongoing list. So
Yeah.
It's an evolving list.
And
would
the
be the best way.
president always has Secret Service even till his death.
Yes.
So they'll always have bodyguards because 9 or 10 or maybe more of the deaths were their ex-bodyguards
Interesting.
and Secret Service members. So you got to think if these people have these protectors for the rest of their lives, they're also going to be in on things.
Yeah,
So
they're
there's-
gonna know, and they're gonna know some of the more private information.
So assuming that all of this is true, and that, God, man, it's a lot of coincidences.
Yeah,
Okay?
and especially when it comes to the suicide, it's a lot of people around one family where there's a lot of people offing themselves.
That's what I'm saying is pretty incredible.
Let me look up what the average suicide statistics would be. Because there's got to be some type of, statistics for,
per what? Per year? Per capita? Per...
Let's try it for just,
Try
I was
2018 USA per capita, like suicides per person.
per capita.
That would be an interesting thing to know, but that is the one, while you're looking that up, I'll say that is the one very common thread.
Because that's where it's
Amongst
not
them all.
coincidental anymore for me. Is when it's like, oh, all these people decided to kill themselves.
Right surrounding 2 people.
Yeah.
One family. That's
So,
what's so weird.
2018 suicide statistics from worldpopulationreview.com. In the United States, there are... Let's find United States on the list.
We're always at the bottom.
Yeah, because of alphabetical order.
It's a U.
Yeah, this one's. Well, the worst part is this list not in alphabetical order.
Oh, wow.
So
that's
it's just all over the place. One moment, please.
terrific.
Let's see here. That would be really helpful if they had put it. Now they have Zimbabwe.
How many people are killing
And it's
themselves in
not at the
Zimbabwe?
bottom. Here we go. So United States is between Austria and Sweden with 15.3 suicides per 100,000 people.
So 15.3.
For 100,000 people. This is 2 people.
I know-
How
I
many
know,
suicides have happened?
Whoa! Oh my! It's over 40.
Well, they're not all classified as suicides.
There's more than 40 names on the list, by far.
And so about...
There's 47 on the unupdated list I read.
So there's
Okay.
already 47 people dead.
Okay.
Now, say 50%